Welcome to the Just Race podcast. I'm your host, Joe Sweeney, and today we are diving into NFT games. From the team that brought you Zed Run, a now famous NFT horse racing game, Microsoft AI engineers, and $5 million from Andreessen Horowitz Crypto, Irreverent Labs presents Mecha Cockfighting. As we've talked about on the show before, gaming is changing from the typical pay $60, buy a game, play through the story, to something a little bit more bottoms up. In this case, NFTs. Ownable in-game characters represented by NFTs that you can use to actually make money from playing. It's a pretty wild idea, and one of a couple this episode, which includes the rise of art in the crypto ecosystem, AI in gaming, and a couple of hints about Apple's new augmented reality headset. We'll dive right in, but I hope you enjoy this conversation with Rahul Sood, founder and CEO of Irreverent Labs. Rahul, it's fantastic to have you on the show. I've been looking forward to doing this for a while, and I love diving into the gaming space, especially when it intersects with crypto. What you're building is particularly fascinating. You're building 100-year experiences is the goal. So what exactly is Irreverent Labs, and what are you building?
Irreverent Labs is a company that's building these what we call 100-year experiences on blockchain, or entertainment experiences. We're kind of a group of people that are ex-Microsofties, ex-entrepreneurs in the gaming and entertainment space. So the people that we've assembled are people that I've worked with in the past, or that my co-founder has worked with as well, because we just wanted to move very quickly. So in a nutshell, we're a game studio building really funny games, using and starting with one game in particular, using sophisticated machine learning to create where every character in the game is an artificially intelligent NPC living on the blockchain as an NFT. It's wild, and it's like nothing that we've seen before. And when you hear the story of the first game we're building, you'll understand why it's so ridiculous.
Yeah, it is pretty amazing. And I think that's a great segue into the first game you're building. Can you introduce us to Mecha Fight Club?
Mecha Fight Club is a fighting game, obviously, and it's in this space, this play to earn space. I've been in the this space since the beginning. So when I talk about the beginning, it make it sound like it's forever, but it really is 2018. I was an early investor in Zed Run, which is like a horse racing game on the blockchain. Yeah. It's pretty cool. And I'm still kind of like actively involved in what they're doing over there, and they're doing some really neat things. I'm also like an entrepreneur in the gaming and entertainment space. So I've had multiple companies that have sold to larger companies, including my first PC company sold to HP. And then I was deeply involved with this company called Vervana, which created a headset similar to Oculus, except it had cameras on the outside. So it was a less isolating experience. And that company sold to Apple. And then I started this company, Unicorn, which became the largest esports and video games betting company in the world, operating in like 50 countries. And we just got acquired by this large company called Entain. And along the way, I also was with Microsoft for 4 years. At Microsoft, myself and my current partner started Microsoft Ventures. So we were very involved in the venture space for a number of years. And after 2014, I left Microsoft Ventures to start Unicorn, and he left to get into the venture space on his own and make investments in companies and things like that. Anyways, he went back to Microsoft. And he heard about Unicorn getting acquired, and he called me and said, "Hey, heard about Unicorn getting acquired. Come see me. Let's have coffee." And this guy is one of the smartest engineers that I've ever worked with. He's brilliant, and he was leading a team at Microsoft in their cyber defense team. So Microsoft started the cyber defense team quite recently, and he was leading the machine learning group inside of that team. and they were working on machine learning applications to thwart nation state attacks against the United States government, like very large scale attacks, right? Like they were shipping software to billions of users, and they were doing like very serious work. So so we started talking about like what I was thinking about, and I told him I have this really dumb idea for a game, like dumbest idea I've ever had. Be prepared. It's ridiculous, and you probably won't like it. So let's finish this coffee and fuck off. See you later, right? Then I shared with him the idea of the Mecha Fight Club, and he lost his mind. He thought it was amazing. He quit his job at Microsoft. Like he literally quit his job to join me as co-founders in this company, and we started to build it. And basically, Mecha Fight Club is a fighting game, like I said, where every character in the game is an artificially intelligent NPC living on the blockchain as an NFT. And there's a very complex economy that goes along with it, and a blockchain asset system. And then moreover, the artwork is insane. I brought on one of the best artists that I've ever worked with before, and design team that I've worked with. We have a game development team that we've assembled that does all of our 3D assets in Unity. So this is actually like a 3D game. It's not some card game using still pictures and stuff. Like it's a full-on game. And then David has assembled this really interesting machine learning team of people that used to deal with very serious machine learning problems, and now they're talking about how many eggs per second that they can generate. Because this game is based in the future, and I'll just give you like a quick 1 minute lore, and then we can ask some more questions. It's based in the future. It's sort of like the story is like in the year 2060, aliens landed on Earth because they felt that Earth was ready to be part of the interstellar network of planets, in the galaxy. So so to share technology and make the whole universe a better place was their motto. They came to Earth. They left almost as quickly as they came because they realized what a bunch of idiots we are. But when they left behind these eggs, and no one knew what they were for. So many years later, these corporations figured out that if they hatch these eggs, these warbots come out of the eggs, and they can enslave the human population using these warbots as weapons of war. So then there was a resistance, an uprising that happened, and it was led by this group called the MFC, who first liberated Las Vegas. And when they liberated Las Vegas, they reprogrammed 6,969 of these eggs from weapons of war to being weapons of mass entertainment. And they turned the technology on themselves in these hilarious battles where they fight each other in the ring, right? The long story short is these characters hatch from eggs. Every egg is unique. They're uniquely beautiful, but they're also unique from what comes out of it. When you get an egg, there's a countdown to an event called the hatching, and then there's a provenance card that comes with it. And the provenance card is like a live trading card that tracks the entire history of whatever hatches, including its professional fighting history, its amateur fighting history, its colors, it's basically the bionics that it has on it and what makes it unique, including the name of the character. And at the point of the hatching, what hatches are these mecha chickens, basically, like roosters and hens that look like robots. So we're creating a cruelty-free mecha cockfighting game. That's what we're doing. Yeah. So it's cockfighting in the future, and they're robots and they're smart. So yeah.
So you convince your co-founder to leave his job at Microsoft, running their AI division focused on fighting off interstate terrorist attacks, essentially, to come to Irreverent Labs and build mecha chickens that are also NFTs and are backed by AI, so are all like intelligent in their own right, that fight in an arena in a digital Las Vegas in a dystopian future.
Yeah, I mean it's exactly right. That's pretty much what happened. And it's funny because like we're all from different backgrounds. We've got people from all walks of life that have come together, and some of them are just incredibly smart, incredibly creative. We go deep in certain areas, but we all have like a good laugh every day just thinking about what happens. Like for example, when these birds hatch, first of all, the hatching animation is beautiful. And what you see is actually your bird hatching from a unique egg. And when they hatch, they pick a name. And they, some of them are like really wild colors, right? So, and the gameplay works like this, where you'll get an email on a Friday night, Joe, and it'll say, hey, Joe, your bird, Robocock, is going to be in the ring against Oprah Winfrey on Saturday night at 7 p.m. Here's a link to watch the fight, right? And you can click the link to watch the fight and schedule it. Or you can look at the card and you can say, oh my God, like Oprah Winfrey is going to kick the shit out of my bird. Like there's no question, right? Because like she's a monster. And so if your bird loses in the Coctagon, you'll go on a cooldown for 10 days. You won't be able to breed. You won't be able to fight. You won't be able to do anything with your bird for 10 days. So you can opt out of the fight by buying a fight pass. Now, to buy a fight pass, you have to use what the birds earn in the game. They're called bucks, like buck. So they earn these bucks in the game, which are minted on something called proof of play. You can't buy them from us. We'll never sell them, but the birds earn them as they fight. And your role is to learn about your bird. So the more you fight it, the more you learn, and then you can actually put it in different situations. We are creating an amateur fighting ring called the Cockpit, which will be eventually on a mobile app. So you'll be able to do bar fights using AR in any public space. The entertainment that's being created is fully automated, and it's always different and unique and funny. So you can share it across all social media and that sort of thing. And then every weekend we have these fights in the Coctagon, which will be these like big professional fights. Every few months there's this big Royal Rumble event, like it's called the Apocalypse, where they all kind of fight in this like mass brawl. And some of the birds are just like really unique. Like we're building personalities around, some of them. Like we've announced a few of them just to show kind of the colors and stuff. We have this one, a hen, beautiful hen. Her name is Honeypot. And we have hens are actually smarter than roosters. 40% of the population are hens, and you need them to breed. And we're going to start building, some really cool marketing and persona around Honeypot. And another bird that we showed just to show the level of ridiculousness that we're willing to go. We have this beautiful bird that's it's really nice black color. It's a very limited black. It's called Centurion Black. I think less than 2% of the total bird population will be in Centurion Black. It's got like carbon fiber bits. It's gorgeous, right? His name is BBC. So, like people have to know why we called ourselves Irreverent Labs. We call ourselves Irreverent Labs because we don't want people to take us seriously. Like this is, it's time to laugh again, and like don't cancel us because one of our birds is named BBC and we're doing cockfighting with, chickens and hens that are roosters and hens or cocks and hens, whatever you want to call them, because they are robots and it really is fun. So,
and the thing about it is the way you talk about them, they sound real, and they are in a sense, but they're also digital avatars. These are NFTs at the end of the day, and they're all, what's interesting is it's kind of the shift from going and buying and playing a video game where everything is already pre-built to video games being built from the bottom up with these different characters that get created, and then individuals can buy those characters and then customize them. It's almost like a collectively built game.
It's not just that, though. It's also about ownership of the character. And for us, it's about building a bond between the player and the characters. So you're going to see like the apps that we're creating and the stuff that we're doing around the game. We're really building bonds between you and your roosters that you'll never want to sell them because they do funny shit, and it's really interesting. Like I remember speaking to one of the guys at Zed, super smart guy, and he used to say like this is like a Tamagotchi for me, right? So to me, this is like a Tamagotchi like on crack. It's basically if you remember when you used to play with Tamagotchis, what it was like. Imagine being able to carry your chicken coop with you anywhere you go, take your bird out in real time using AR and place it in the real world at whatever size you want to make it. It's walking around, it's doing all kinds of crazy stuff. You're taking videos and pictures with it, and then you get to fight it. If it sees another bird, it immediately goes and starts fighting. And it goes into the bird's amateur fight history. Whoever wins and loses, and they make funny sounds. You can imagine the sounds that they make, and that sort of thing. It's pretty funny.
So that's another fascinating piece. You're bringing these into the real world via augmented reality, and AR is effectively where I pick up my phone, I look through the world using my camera lens, and it can digitally add things to it. So like, for instance, you can add a sticker and pin it, I think in just like your camera app these days, Snapchat, all that kind of stuff. And then when you look back at that side of the room, that sticker is still there. But AR is something that is like, it's been on the verge for like at least 5 years now. Apple ARKit has made it possible for a while, but the only app that's really taken advantage of it effectively is Pokemon Go. So this is like Pokemon Go, but mecha cockfighting.
Yeah, this is like Pokemon Go meets South Park humor meets Mortal Kombat fight style. It's kind of like all of it mixed into one, and it is very funny. Like it's just funny to watch them. We're taking this, like our artist is amazing, by the way. He's a personal friend of mine who's from Las Vegas, who actually started out as a graffiti artist, and he's a fascinating graffiti artist. And what he would do is he would create a digital rendition of what you want on a PC and say, like, this is what you want, and he would literally take that and create a 1-for-1 copy using airbrush and like spray paint. He's unbelievable on a wall. And it could be like a canvas. It could be a wall that's 300 feet wide. Like he's crazy good. Mm-hmm. And we're basically taking his art and we're bringing life into it with AI and machine learning. So like at the beginning when we started this, I painted this vision for him. Like, I want to create this game. I want these not to look like real roosters and hens because I don't want it to be cruelty. I love animals, that kind of thing. But I do want them to look like robots, and make it funny. And so he's like, done. So he went out and started to draft up these ideas and like the bionics and all the different things that he put on it, and it's been hilarious just watching it go over time. And if you ever meet this guy, I mean, he basically lives in the metaverse. Like his office is in the future. He's wild, and that's like that describes everybody in our team.
Yeah. So one piece I'd love to dive into here is the AI itself. So the idea is that these will each be almost intelligent. They'll have a machine learning engine behind each one with their own actual models, which will use reinforcement learning to make each one unique and learn different things. How does that work? And like, how will that actually be expressed?
We're using AI in a couple of different ways. First, we're using it to train the birds how to fight. So like a few weeks ago, we were at 10,000 simulations. Now we're well over 1 million. We're actually simulating fighting now. So we've had over 1 million fights being simulated, which is building training data to train the birds how to fight. So that part is I don't want to say it's easy, but that part is the part that's happening right now, where we're using that data to train the birds. The other part is we use actual chicken DNA to create the birds' personalities. So from a very particular type of chicken. So there's like there's a way that you can take the DNA from the bird using this data that's publicly available, and then we apply AI to it, and now we're using that DNA to create unique personalities in all the birds. So so some birds will be more aggressive than others. Some might be passive. Some might be funny. Some might be really stupid. Like we don't know. But we're going to see, and that's what we're doing right now, is using that data to train the personalities of the birds.
That's wild. So the same way machine learning engineers trained machine learning algorithms on chess, they gave it the rules of chess. Here are the basic parameters. Go play 1 million games until you're really good at chess. You're doing that with your own game where you built the parameters, but the game is cockfighting and the players are individual chickens.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing. Yeah, like we're I mean, doesn't that sound amazing? Like that's what we're doing. And, and we're also building like very deep lore behind it as well. So if you go to our Discord and register, we announced this a week ago, and we've got almost 12,000 users on there that are really looking forward to what's coming. We're building some really unique tools to bring life to art, right? Using entertainment as a way to do it, and using this Trojan horse as a mecha cockfighting game as our vehicle to create this technology. So we're creating technology that could potentially be licensed and used in other ways, whether it's building training data for AI, or whether it's bringing in other projects into this world somehow. So, the lore is very deep. If you come to our Discord and register and go to the lore section, you can start to read the story of the Mecha Fight Club, right? And it's really, really interesting. And there's multiple characters that are being introduced into this lore. And the long story short is only 41,000 eggs were ever discovered on Earth, right? We know that there's 41,000 eggs on Earth. We've only liberated Las Vegas at this point, and Las Vegas had 6,969 eggs. Don't ask me why, but we've liberated Las Vegas, and so we're gonna release those 6,969 eggs. We don't know what city we're gonna liberate next. We don't know what's in those eggs, but what we do know is that the community is like dying for more, right? And when you see Las Vegas in the year 2140, you're going to start to understand the way we think. It's a different skyline, but there's some things that are the same. Like the MGM Grand is still there; it's still green. There's still the big wheel there, but there's all this other stuff. And then the center of it is the Coctagon, and the world revolves around the Coctagon and this mass entertainment that we're creating. So think of this like automated Netflix, where we're creating entertainment automatically that is unique and entertaining every time, and that people will want to share on social media. And while we do that, they're building a bond with their characters.
Oh, so this is not a game in that like I go play and like decide the attacks that my chicken is going to use. This is a game in that my chicken is an ML algorithm that's been trained to be really good at fighting. There are all these other chickens that are really good at fighting, and then I can fight them, and then it just becomes like it's like watching a fight in a
Exactly.
in a cockfight.
Exactly. And you don't know the outcome. You don't know the outcome. We don't know the outcome until the outcome, right? And that brings like the potential of this is just massive, because if you think about like in my previous role, I was the founder of Unicorn, a co-founder of this company that became definitely the largest. Yeah, it was the largest esports and video games betting company in the world, right? And we just got acquired by one of the largest wagering companies on earth, Entain. We could take all of this data that we're creating, we could take the vision, the assets, and we can create an interface, a user interface for DraftKings, for Entain, for other companies to take bets on these fights and let them deal with the regulators. Because I never want to deal with a regulator in my life again, because that's all I did for 7 years, and I literally wanted to just kill myself, because it was such a shitty thing to deal with on a regular basis. However, there are very good wagering companies out there that would love to take bets on this stuff. And so there's a lot of opportunities here, I think, for this game.
Yeah, so this isn't like a video game where I play it. It's like a micro Netflix where I get my own character and then I can bet on it, and like I can put it into fights and I can wager on it. And can I actually make money off these things if they win?
So that's the whole point, right? Is that your birds earn bucks in the game. They earn these thing called bucks, and those bucks can be used in various ways in the game. They'll trade on the Solana blockchain, but you can use them for various things in the game. And then you decide as the owner what you want to do with the earnings. You want to breed, do you want to create a next generation of birds with, in our breeding game? It's going to be highly limited. Like in order to get in the hen house, it's going to be limited for you to, breed. But there are going to be, some really interesting games that we release down the road with this. What's neat about this game is that we can release it bit by bit. So each experience can come out, so we're actually going to launch fighting as soon as the eggs are out there. So we're going to have the cockpit fights going right away. And then, the Coctagon tournament fights are happening. And then shortly after that, the AR bar fights will happen. So we can do this. And then eventually breeding will happen. So these are all sort of mini games that we're releasing.
That's amazing. So when can I buy into the eggs, the NFTs, when they get dropped?
So we were planning on doing our first drop in March. We had no idea that the community would grow as quickly as it had. It's going to be we don't want to make it a mad rush. So what we're doing is we're creating a hatch list and we're adding people to the list. And we haven't released how we're doing that just yet, but we have a lot of people in our community right now. If you look up hashtag Mechaholics on Twitter, you'll see a bunch of memes that are being created by our community. It's pretty neat to see. So we've got a global community already. The word is getting out. People are realizing this is really the future of gaming. I'm a gamer and I've been gaming longer than you've been alive, right? I mean, I've been around for a very long time. So I've been gaming since like, the Atari 2600 days, and I've had multiple companies in the gaming and entertainment space. As I get older, I find my Twitch movements and that sort of thing just aren't as good. Like I could play League of Legends and I'll get my ass kicked against like a 13-year-old, and I don't know who's playing me on the other side, but I guarantee you they're 13 and they're always winning, right? So to me, the future of gaming is artificially intelligent NPCs. I think everyone should watch the movie Free Guy because it's such a great movie. It's with Ryan Reynolds. It just came out recently, and Ryan Reynolds plays an NPC in a video game and he doesn't know it. It's really good.
Yeah, I saw it in theaters a while back. It was one of the first things I saw when theaters reopened. And yeah, interesting ideas. Not ones that I thought would come into reality this quickly, but evidently.
Yeah, yeah, it's great. It is great.
So you also have some fantastic VCs on board, and it sounds like you raised your round in 8 days. Weren't really planning on raising, and then went to talk to some people, and suddenly you had $5 million from the Chainsmokers and Andreessen Horowitz.
Looking back, I have to laugh because when David and I got together, we started to build out these models. We basically said like, let's first think about what an economy would look like in this game over 100 years of gameplay. And envision a game that lasts 100 years when we're dead, and it's people are still playing it. What happens when user growth stagnates? Like, how does the economy continue to develop, right? How do we turn this economy into something that resembles an economy of a small country? And so he built economic models to do this, and he did it in a week. I'm like, you got to be kidding me! And like, these are pretty deep models, right? He's pretty amazing at what he does. So he built these models out with different parameters, and then we said, okay, let's test breeding, and let's just see what would happen if we did 100 generations of breeding. What type of spontaneous mutations could happen, and that sort of thing. We're never going to allow that, by the way. But if it did happen, what would happen? So we built these models out, and then in the meantime, we brought in my artist friend who just like we met him and said, listen, this is our idea. We want to build a cockfighting game in the future with robots. Like, are you in? And he's like, hell yeah. He quit his everything and then joined and started building stuff. And so then we went to A16Z and Alex, in particular, Alex Paul, the Chainsmokers. It was the first person I went to. And I said, listen, I'm working on something right now, because he really wanted to invest in Zed at one point, and, he couldn't get in. And I said, look, I'm working on something. Let me just get back to you. And then I got back to him and I said, we are building something right now that I think is pretty interesting. But we're not looking for money yet. David and I weren't really looking for money. We just wanted to talk to them to see if it's something that they're interested in. Well, Alex lost his mind when he saw it. So obviously he was interested. Then we went to go see Ariana, and she definitely, like, within the first 8 minutes fell in love with the idea, and that was it. So yeah, we raised $5 million very quickly. That's all we wanted. We don't need more than that to get this going. We'll see what we do next year. But I'll tell you, the meeting with Ariana was nerve-wracking because, meeting Alex Paul and talking about cocks and cockfighting was easy, right? Like, it's like, cockfighting, apocalypse, the octagon, BBC, like, he was laughing the whole time. And we're like, what are we going to say to Ariana when we meet her? She brought 2 other women on her team with her, right, to the call. There was no men in the room. So it was me and David, and we're talking over Slack, like, shit, man, like, I don't know if we should, what we should say. So I just said, look, we got to be honest. We got to just embrace it. This is who we are. We're Irreverent Labs. Don't take us seriously. So that's how I started. I said, look, this is the dumbest idea I've ever had. Be ready for it, right? And it's like, we call ourselves Irreverent Labs for a reason. So just prepare yourselves. And then we just started showing it. Ariana was writing notes the whole time. Didn't crack a smile, didn't do anything. And then we showed the picture of the hen. She looks up, she goes, no, that's cool. And she started laughing. So that was sort of how it happened.
And it sounds like it worked out really well.
Yeah, I think so. I think they're great. I think you're going to help us on a number of fronts. So yeah, I think it worked out quite well.
The other fascinating thing here is about like players getting into the game. So one of the things that I've been wondering about, I just talked to this really interesting company called Fan Controlled Football, where you buy an NFT as a fan of a team, and then there are real players playing in an arena in Las Vegas, and you get to call the plays, you and your team, which is wild. But I feel like the biggest barrier to getting into that is actually buying the NFT, because like I bought NFTs and the first one was like very difficult to do. You have to get a MetaMask account. You have to do all this stuff. How do you think about that as far as distribution? I mean, I think within the NFT world it will blow up, but like beyond that, what do you think about onboarding?
So that's the first thing we thought about is how do we take this onboarding cliff of, the play to earn games and make it more of a hill. And we've been working on that. We have been we chose Solana for a reason because the sticker price of gas and transaction fees and dealing with multiple like wrapped Ethereum on top of Ethereum is confusing. So that's step one. But step two is just understanding that we are in a crypto native space, right? So rather than trying to cater to people who have an iPhone who want to pay with Apple Pay, we need Apple to come on board and realize that this is the future. And if you don't come on board, you're going to be left behind, right? And that's the approach that we're taking because, these traditional companies were adverse to it at the beginning, and now they're starting to see the light. And, when you see companies like Nike and Adidas and all these other brands coming in the space, you better wake up because they're the ones who dictate culture. And, and young people are really getting into this. And eventually it's going to happen. So we're still very early in blockchain. Developing a game on blockchain is very hard, but it is getting better. And there's more tools coming and that sort of thing to make it easier. But for now, our first choice was Solana for that reason, to make it easier. And then secondly, the gameplay itself has to be accessible and easy. A lot of these games take effort to play because not only do you have to then connect your Solana wallet or your MetaMask wallet and do all that stuff, but then you got to make a concerted effort to play the game. And it's hard to play because it's an effort just to connect and, to go in and to decide what transactions to make and that sort of thing. So our game was meant to be much easier and way more accessible because all you do is click a link to watch or, and learn about your bird and you're building a bond with it over time. It's the machine learning part that's the hardest part. And that's why we spent a lot of money building this team.
I heard someone say recently, what's crazy about crypto is that it has a terrible user experience and it's still growing like a bonkers. Yeah. So yep. That's a good sign if something is really hard to use and it's still growing like crazy. And like you said, some of the biggest players in, I guess, culture are moving into this space. You're starting to see like streetwear become NFTs. And then from there, I'm really interested in the gaming companies. There are virtually none that have actually launched at this point that are like really good, solid games. And I think
no, that's true. A lot of the games that are coming out are either like recycled old studios with shitty games that they think, oh, blockchain and NFTs, let's go do it. And they don't know anything about blockchain. Or they're like crypto companies that have never built a game studio or played a game in their lives, and so the games that come out are like, what? This is a game? No, it's not. This is garbage. And so when we built this, we brought in people like I have history in blockchain. I'm early Bitcoin, early building on blockchain, and also just gaming. I've been a gamer forever. So we built a team that's multidisciplined in gaming, machine learning, and blockchain. And we're a new studio, and we have a very defined reason for why blockchain. I think that's the most important thing is, why are you building on blockchain in the first place? Is it because NFTs are hot and the thing? If it is, then you're going to fail, right? But if there's a real reason for it and you have a real application, you're going to do really well.
It's a fascinating space. And Mark Andreessen said recently that they're just investing in a bunch of really cool game development companies because he thinks this is going to be a space, but he has no idea how it's going to work. And I think some of those people, like you and the founders of Core Loop, for instance, they're really good game developers who are like, blockchain makes sense because of this, but it's still a great game. And I think we're going to start seeing these games come out in the next year. Like 2022 is when these games are going to start rolling out, and they really haven't existed before. So that's pretty fascinating that like play to earn is going to become a thing in a real way, more than just like Axie is, I think, the only one that people know right now.
Yeah, exactly. And, it was neat to see the rise of Axie. Much respect to them. I think it's an interesting game. I don't personally, I don't find it that fun, but I know people that actually do. Mm-hmm. But it feels like more of a grind, and I think like people play that game because they make money, but that's the wrong reason to play a game. You should play a game because you love the game. And if you happen to make money while playing the game, that's a bonus. And that's sort of like our intention is to build a really great game. And it happens to be built on blockchain because it needs to be for a number of reasons. And that's why we chose to do it the way we're doing it.
I'm curious beyond, your core product at Irreverent Labs and beyond the company, are there any trends or technologies or kind of new business models in the space that you find really interesting?
Man, like I think that the whole blockchain space in general, it comes in waves, right? It's like the last wave was the ICO wave in 2017. Some projects made it through, some got scathed by regulation, and most were scams. But they brought in a whole bunch of new users and new interest into Bitcoin, essentially, right? Because that's what ends up happening when everything blows up. Everyone retreats back to Bitcoin, which is good. In 2020, 21 was sort of the year of the NFT, where everyone started to look at NFTs, and it brought in a whole wave of like hip hop culture, just general culture, general like sports and entertainment, media, music, all of that, and gaming in one space. So it's a gigantic wave. And again, with that wave, there's going to be a lot of scams. There's going to be regulatory nightmares. There's going to be all kinds of trash that's created, but there's also going to be some real winners that come out of it, right? And I see the trend as the convergence of music, entertainment, arts, and culture in gaming, using gaming as a sort of Trojan horse to pull it all together. And while we do that, we're building really great technology that can be used in other areas. So that's what Irreverent Labs is doing, is we're using gaming as a way to sort of build this tech out.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to watch. I think those waves, yeah, it is really interesting because people talk about how Bitcoin has crashed. It's got cut in half from 60K to like 30K.
They don't know what they're talking about. Like Bitcoin is hard money, and it's volatile, no question. But over time, that volatility will decrease as more and more people get involved in the social construct of Bitcoin, right? I'm a Bitcoin maximalist. I won't call myself a maximalist because I'm not going to sit here and say like, you should only buy Bitcoin and nothing else. What I do say is that, if you really are looking for an investment, Bitcoin is the investment. Is the smartest man on earth. He's really good.
Sounds like it.
And we talk about the future, and we think about it at like the last industrial revolution was built by bricklayers and laborers, right? They built New York, but they didn't get to participate in sort of like the upside of it. It's all the developers, the landowners, that sort of thing that did. This next industrial revolution is happening in a world where artists and creators and engineers, really creative people and really deep engineering people are creating that world. They are the next industrial revolution. And as a result of that, they also get to participate in the upside of that, because in this idea of Web3 and decentralization, there's a lot of ways for them to kind of have a piece of the future of this industrial revolution. So when people throw around the word metaverse and NFTs, they throw it around a lot, right? It's often overused, and it's used mostly in the wrong way, or Web3 even, right? It's used in the wrong way. But at the end of the day, the idea of metaverse is actually real. And the idea that there is a future in this space where you're augmenting reality, overlaid on top of your reality, there is actually something real there. And so I believe that the future, or we believe that the future of of the space is going to be built online, and it's going to be, and the future bricklayers and laborers are actually the artists and the creators and the engineers that are building it.
Yeah, that is wild. I love the idea that what a lot of Web3 and NFTs are doing right now is just taking artists and making their work a lot more valuable and creating this whole new ecosystem of dollars that flow into artists at all different levels. And the idea that, if wallets follow us around the internet, then we'll all be expressing ourselves through the art we carry with us, the way like, you have a t-shirt or fashion is right now. It's digital fashion, which is pretty wild. And virtually no one I've talked to has talked about AR, augmented reality. All I ever hear about AR these days is that Apple might be working on it. And it sounds like you sold an AR company to Apple
Yeah.
a little while
Yeah.
back, so you may have more insight there than most. But that's fascinating because the idea of being able to have my NFT Mecha Chicken and then
Yeah.
be at a bar, see that somebody else has it, and then both be able to like pick up our phones and have them like fight in what is
Not even,
physical
you won't even have
space
to pick up your phone soon.
because of the AR.
Yeah, there's stuff like, that's happening out there that's getting better and better and better. So, yeah.
I hear that. I'm looking forward to seeing it sometime soon.
Yeah.
My last question for everybody on the show is about vision, and we've been talking about this a lot, but I would love to hear what your long-term, it sounds like you have a 100-year vision. So your 100-year vision for Mecha Chickens and really Irreverent Labs as a company.
Yeah. So we, as I mentioned to you about, our view of this next industrial revolution, we want to build the technology, the core technology, the hardest problems to solve in that world, and enable it so that other people can build on it as well. So the tools that we're building on the back of this mecha cockfighting game are serious tools, and we want to be able to take those tools and let others build with it. We want to build a creator economy where artists, musicians, and gamers can come together and contribute to our world, starting with the Mecha Fight Club. So you'll see a lot more in the coming months of what we're doing, and if you dive deep into our Discord and start to read the lore and start to see the assets that we're building, the game trailers, that sort of thing, you'll really get an idea of where this is going.
It's a amazing vision, and I'm looking forward to buying a Mecha Chicken sometime soon and seeing this project come to life. I think the next year or two is going to be fascinating for all these kinds of games, and especially Irreverent Labs.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And, I feel the same way, but sometimes when you look at your own baby and you think it's the most beautiful thing in the world, but it could be the ugliest baby ever. I don't know. But I have a feeling about this. It's like in my gut that we're building something, and the team, the way we're coming together and the response from the community, it really feels like we're striking lightning, knock on wood, but I don't know. It could just be a dumb idea.
I think it's a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see. I mean, striking lightning is definitely a good feeling.
Yeah, absolutely.